The Dream is Alive was created expressly for the IMAX motion picture system. The Los Angeles Times called the film breathtaking, the coming of age of the ultra-large screen format. Giant or dome-shaped IMAX screens occupy most of the audience's field of view. The IMAX extends this view edge of peripheral vision, and the audience feels it is part of the picture. The large film frame creates an extraordinary sense and clarity of the IMAX image. 6-track stereophonic sound surrounds the audience and completes the illusion of being at the center of the action. Theaters designed specifically for the IMAX motion picture system give everyone an unobstructed view of the screen. Unlike television, the more measured pace allows the eye to appreciate fully the detail and grandeur of the image. For those who have seen The Dream is Alive in an IMAX theater, this video will serve as a perfect souvenir. For those who have yet to see the film, it is a tantalizing introduction to the remarkable IMAX experience.
Yep, okay, I got a tally ho on the tape. Looking good, man. You can hear the wind real loud right now. Yeah.
At the end of a 3 million mile journey, the space shuttle is coming home.
APUs are looking good, man.
The commander has to make a perfect landing now. He has no engines to take him around again.
Boy, that. Boy, I tell you, that's a good one. Yeah, looking good. Okay. Right. Okay, got him. On we go. Yeah, I know, I've got it right. 400. 300 out. Here's coming. 100, 255. 50 feet at 240. 30 feet at 235. 20 feet at 225. 10 feet at 220. 8 feet at 215. 5 feet at 210. 2 feet at 200. 1 foot. Touchdown. 195. 170. 165. 160. 150. 90 at 5. 70 at 5. 50 knots. 5 deceleration. 30 at 5.
Here, in the middle of a Florida wildlife refuge, the shuttles land.
29.
They are serviced and are launched again.
Okay, Houston, wheels are stopped. Way to go, boys. Magnificent.
This is Kennedy Space Center, America's spaceport. The people we hear about most are the astronauts, but actually there are thousands more working behind the scenes to keep the shuttles flying. They inspect and maintain the more than 30,000 tiles that protect the orbiter from the heat of re-entry. They watch over the mating of the components, the solid rockets, the massive external tank, and the orbiter. 2 weeks to launch, the shuttle rolls out to the pad. The flight crew has been training at Johnson Space Center near Houston. Now they've come here to Florida to take part in a dress rehearsal with the launch team. In preparation for a potential emergency, they practice rapid egress from the orbiter and the possible use of an escape basket.
Got 4 good HPUs, 4 good. I'm gonna get the last doors open. I got the door. All the picks are up.
Okay, now.
Now the engines have stopped. We are in space, 280 miles up. At last, we can see our magnificent Earth in all its splendor. The LDEF satellite weighs 10 tons and is the size of a school bus. It carries 57 experiments, the work of more than 200 scientists from 8 countries. LDEF will stay up here for more than a year, exposing various materials to the vacuum of space.
Okay,
Yes, inside the spacecraft, there's a new experience. Weightlessness. A typical crew consists of 5 to 7 people. Some are career astronauts, others are specialists in a variety of fields, representing various countries. Above is the flight deck with windows facing up and back into the payload bay. Below, the mid-deck functions as living room, dining room, bedroom, workshop, and study.
Discovery Houston, you're looking good for deploy.
Commander Hartsfield and pilot Coates navigate the orbiter to a predetermined point in space so that the communication satellite they are deploying will be precisely positioned.
That's a big hummer, isn't it? Look at that. Get some shots of that.
Take off supply, Houston.
Much of the time, the orbiter flies with its payload bay facing the Earth. So, to see our planet's features, the crew uses the overhead windows.
That's pretty.
As we cross the Alps into Italy, Genoa is on the left, home of Christopher Columbus. Eastward, the Po River flows down to the Adriatic. And just north of its mouth, glorious Venice. This is the Italy of the Renaissance. It was here that Leonardo first said, "We can fly." And now we circle the Earth every 90 minutes at 17,000 miles an hour. It's as if we're in a time machine, looking back across the centuries at our own history. The Boot of Italy. Islands of the Mediterranean, of Homer's Odyssey. Now on toward Crete, site of the ancient Minoan culture. The great city of Alexandria, once the world's center of learning. Beyond it, the lush delta of the River Nile, spreading down to the Mediterranean from Cairo. It is thought that thousands of years ago, everything below us now was fertile, but a change in climate turned North Africa into a desert. What will future climatic changes do to our Earth and to us?
Okay, we're still looking for a deployment plan over that
Okay, how's that?
In search of the answer,
I like
Sally
it.
Ride deploys a satellite called Herbs.
That's a pretty spacecraft.
Challenger Houston, your go for release.
Okay, we'll put it in work.
Herbs will help us to know whether there will be more sandstorms in our future, or blizzards, or hurricanes, like Josephine, 500 miles in diameter and packing winds of 90 miles an hour.
Enormous area. I mean, the only
only seeing like not even half of it right here. There's
the eye of the storm.
Right. The east coast of the U.S. is off here with the ground.
Now the middeck has become part gymnasium and part factory. While Steve Hawley exercises, Charlie Walker operates a compact laboratory on the far bulkhead. This is a commercial venture. Its object to develop new kinds of medicines that can only be made in zero gravity.
10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Come on, got it on. 3, 2, 1. There she goes. Right, free arm is off. Okay. Next one is an ankle. Okay, that's two gotta do same fail. I'm gonna close the sunshade, everybody.
Okay, I'm watching it on
Here's Discovery. I got
The communication satellite is deployed by Judy Resnick and photographed by Mike Mullane.
Discovery Houston, good news, Steve. We're watching it and a lot of smiles down here.
Yeah, there's a lot of them up here, too.
The crew eats and sleeps pretty much according to the same schedule as on Earth. Back in the early days of space, we sometimes heard complaints about the food. It was mostly squeezed out of toothpaste tubes. Now the crews get to eat what they want. Steak, strawberries, shrimp cocktail.
I would say that the extension was just about as nominal as you could expect.
We copy that, Henry.
On this flight, we have extended an experimental solar array.
And it is not budging one iota. It is solid as a rock. And we're about ready to retract now.
holding smoothly.
In the future, such a device may tap the sun's energy to help power the space station.
That's got a little wiggle in it. Look at that.
The leaves are so thin and the mast so ingeniously contrived that the 100-foot-high structure folds into a box 7 inches deep. While the crew sleeps, flight controllers on the ground watch over the orbiter. The Hawaiian Islands. The Andes Mountains in South America. Cape Canaveral and Kennedy Space Center, our home port. South Florida and the Keys. The deep blue of the Gulf Stream, the turquoise reefs of the Bahamas. The vast craters of the Galapagos Islands. An orbital sunrise.
Altitude 2,000 feet. Range 12,000 feet.
As this is Discovery's maiden voyage, Commander Hartsfield will land on the long runway at Edwards Air Force Base in California. He's got lots of room, but he'd like to touch down on those two black stripes just ahead on the runway.
Touchdown. Discovery safely back on Earth after having traveled 2.17 million nautical miles in 6 days, 57 minutes.
Welcome home.
Discovery rides back to Florida atop NASA's 747. With 4 orbiters in the fleet, new astronauts are needed. Thousands of candidates apply. Few make it.
Okay, check your body position. Fill up, fill up, fill up. Hook is down. And keep on walking.
Although some are pilots, many are engineers, medical doctors, and scientists. Once selected, the new astronaut develops specific skills leading to an eventual flight assignment. Then, training for that mission begins. This is James Van Hoften, otherwise known as Ox. And this is George Nelson, known as Pinky. Together, they're going to attempt something which has never been done before: the capture and repair of a satellite in space. The satellite, called Solar Max, broke down after its first few months and is now rotating in orbit, partially crippled.
We show a dot.
Okay, Lynn, how about if I take Pinky here and roll him upside down? I'll get him back there by the...
They will be
by the
assisted
NFR.
by astronaut T.J. Hart.
And here he goes with a roll. Now, pick him back up again.
The shuttle's arm plays a vital role in the repair, and T.J., as they call him, is an expert.
And back up to the satellite. Oops.
An astronaut, fully dressed in a spacesuit, weighs close to 400 pounds. In space, he'll weigh nothing at all. Pinky and Ox practice the repair in a tank at Johnson Space Center. It's the closest one can come on Earth to weightlessness.
What is that? This must be space. Was that great? Safety divers, take the subjects down for final ballasting in heads-up position.